Having released their 9th studio album this year, this trio from New York, New York is celebrating their 25th year of making and releasing studio albums together. So I figured it's a good time for me to finally see what they're all about. This is Nada Surf's debut album, High Low. Having been recorded and mastered in only 19 days at Electric Lady Studios, this album, released in '96 through Elektra Records, was recorded in late 1995, and that'll be the real marker for their 25 years of recording. But they had a bunch of these songs already put together, pretty much this entire album, before they were signed to a major label, so it's not as crazy as just throwing a whole album together, but still quite an impressive feat. Coming in at just over 36 minutes and 10 tracks, this album slips sort of between conventional genre identities, being a indie-flavored alt-rock with some grunge inspiration and some hits of power pop. The lyrics lend to a uniquely nostalgic atmosphere that transports the listener through the emotional roller coaster, the highs and lows, the ups and downs of being a teenage boy. A real journey from a deep, deep well to popularity, from a treehouse to Hollywood, not spending much time in between. This album stays pretty true to its namesake. High Low is uplifting one minute and powerfully depressing the next. The opener, Deeper Well, is a track that takes a familiar, adrenaline-fueled 80s rock style and combines it with sort of a newer indie rock flavor that was becoming quite popular at the time. It may feel a little bit like a musical patchwork of sorts, but I think it's a pretty great song with a great chorus. And in this case, the deeper lyricism is held a little bit less accountable. That is to say, I did look at the lyrics and did really appreciate the substance they added, but they weren't required for me to enjoy this track. On to The Plan, a track that conveys a classic sentiment of feeling stuck in an uncomfortable loop of living and working in a place that is really not bringing you any joy or fulfillment. Tracks like these feel like a cry for help, with lines like, "I'm having dreams, I'm in the wrong place, and I'm overdressed and you're getting stranger. I need a map to get us out of this town." Monotony is a dangerous cycle, and it's just so easy to get trapped in it. Now for the track you guys remember these guys for, at least what you'd remember this album for. It's the song Popular. Smash hit, but I feel like it's basically lost on me. I don't know, maybe I'm just a little bit too young, born a little bit too late to have this one hit. Maybe it's just the irony's lost on me on it. I don't know, it's ultimately one of my least favorite tracks on the album, unfortunately. Sorry if you really like this song. The song does a good job of conveying that frustrating sense of being in high school and having a super simple, regimented lifestyle, but also all the little weird complexities that go along with just being a kid and having your peers constantly surrounding you and being in that sort of sphere of influence. Personally, I find this echoey skit at the start and all the spoken word passages pretty tiring after just a couple listens. Maybe once in a while this track could be fun, but it's not something you can really revisit over and over again in terms of musical appeal, I guess. The chorus is catchy, but it's really substanceless, repetitive, simple, and I'm sure it's meant to be that way. It just, like I said, it's just lost on me. I didn't even realize he fell down. Borrowing another page from Weezer with similar sounding guitars and the big tonal shift from verses to choruses. Sleep is another one of those tracks that talks about feeling stuck in a rut. It feels like an internal struggle of trying to get someone to give you what you want and understand, but at the same time you're too trapped and hypnotized to the point where you can't even open your eyes. Inaction continues to dominate the first half of the LP with the next track, Stalemate. A much more simple track, and instrumentally and lyrically. It starts right out with the silly, catchy chorus and flows pretty smoothly onto a lighter feeling track, but it's a song that's about living in fear. That track is titled Treehouse. This track does an exceptional job of conveying the feeling of too good to be true, and talks about the themes of how it feels to not be able to love someone enough. Just basically waiting for everything to come crashing down around you. It's short and sweet, and it creates a high point on the album, as artificial as it might be. And that fake high doesn't even last, as Icebox comes in with slower, somber sounding guitars. It's a song that talks about wanting to be buried in sorrow and covered in joy. I'm not sure if it's supposed to mean that after the initial sorrow of having to let go and say goodbye to someone, you should celebrate their memory with joy, or if they just wanted flowers planted on top of their grave to bring joy to people, or maybe even it could be the band letting the listener know that the way they want to celebrate their loss is with joyous remembrance. Either way, still cryptic as usual in the generally pretty dark piece of alt-rock here. Starting similarly to the last track, Psychic Caramel speeds up and builds to a more aggressive song that you might hear a Billy Talent perform. Hollywood is the shortest cut in the album, and it feels like a look at the future realities of the character portrayed in the track Popular that tries to stay cool after he gets out of high school. The instrumental does a wonderful job to create the subtle feeling of slipping away, making this one's story as clear as any, the rest of them as short as it is. Ending the album on a reflective note with lighter, building instrumentation, and ultimately the band coming to terms with where life has put them at this point. As much as I hear the Weezer influence throughout this entire album, this one's probably the wheeziest of the lot. I don't mean that in any bad way, I just can't not hear the similarities in this indie-flavored power pop number. What a great debut album this is, leaving tons of avenues of stylistic direction they could take it. I'm really curious to check out their new album, and then maybe if I like it, I'll build my way up and see how they got there. As long as they've maintained the emotion and managed to continue to create catchy, albeit somewhat cryptic lyrics, I certainly can't see why I can't find some enjoyment out of some more of the Not a Surf album chronology. Otherwise, next time I feel like revisiting Pinkerton or the Blue Album, I'll throw these guys on instead for a slightly deeper, darker themed musical experience. Perhaps I've discovered a new band that I can go and see live after this awfully forced hiatus we're experiencing right now. Man, I miss live music so much. What's the last artist you got to see live before coronavirus hit? I'm curious, let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a subscribe, give me the like, share it with your friends. There's more videos to watch over here, more thrift shop reviews. Thank you so much. I love you the most, and take good care. You know the rest.